Well, I am Keith,
I'm Trevor.
and we have an inaugural episode of Fairly Odd Dudes, which we are. So, Trevor, what are we
Or
talking
so
about
they
today?
say.
They do.
We are going to be talking about the history and the epic that it is, the halftime Super Bowl show.
Yes, and I think we can actually say the word Super Bowl.
I think so. We're not
Yeah.
advertising.
Yeah, we're not advertising, so hopefully we don't get in trouble. We'll see. Maybe we'll get a strike and they'll take it down. But anyway, all right, let's get to it. All right, Trevor, you gotta give me Super Bowl history, man. I know a lot. I know a lot, but before we get to any good musical acts, we probably should go through the bad halftime acts.
Oh yeah, we'll go through all that. We'll go through all that. And you know what? I think it's also important. I don't think it's important, but I think it's kind of nice to know a little bit about the history so you can kind of put it in context of how we got to where we are today with Super Bowl acts. So, just a brief bit of history. So, football or American football, because if anybody is watching us from Europe,
Yeah,
that's soccer for us,
yeah.
right? So we've got
We're the only
American
morons
football.
who we're the
Right,
only
we're the only
morons who
morons that do that.
who have a ball that you throw and call it football. Anyway,
So anyway, that started way back with colleges in like 1890. So it's been around for a long time. And college teams were really popular during that time. And it wasn't until and at the same time, there was what we would call professional football. There was these teams sponsored by various businesses and companies and stuff, right? So that was professional football. And it wasn't until 1958 that professional football became more popular than college football.
that I
And
actually didn't know. I
yeah,
actually because I mean I love football like the next guy, and you know I always thought that professional football was actually more popular
no,
before
no,
that.
there was probably 70 years of it just being just college football being way more popular. So yeah, it took us all the way to 1958. And during that time, there was two different football leagues. Okay, there was the NFL, or National Football League, and then there was the AFL, which is the American Football League. So what happened is that in 1966 they decided to merge those two together. And this gets a little confusing here. So they kept the National Football name, or NFL as we know it today,
Yep.
and then AFL became like a league within the NFL. So you've
So
got the NFL league and
so
the
now,
AFL league.
but that's now why we have the AFC and the NFC.
Right. That's
Okay,
exactly
got it.
right. So they're two separate things. So the Super Bowl is the meeting of the winners of each of those respective leagues. That's what that is. That's the Super Bowl. Okay? Does that
Yep.
make sense? Okay.
I'm with you so far.
All right. All right. So even when this came on in 1966, when they merged them together, they decided to have the first Super Bowl, Super Bowl one. It wasn't even that popular. So what they had to do, they had this in Los Angeles at the Coliseum. They had the cameras on one side, and they looked out in the audience, and it wasn't even very populated. There wasn't many people out there, so they had to round up everybody in the stadium and move them all over to like the opposite side from where the cameras are. So it looked like the stadium was
Could
full.
you imagine? Okay, everybody, get up.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's actually footage of that, of them like rounding everybody up and putting them all together so that it looked like a full stadium there. So that was the first one. And you look at the first one that they did, and really, you'll see it here for the next few. Actually, for kind of a bit, you really saw a lot of what you saw in college football games at halftime, which was, marching bands and that type of stuff. So for 1966, they had marching bands and things, but they also tried to add some additional things to kind of make this wholesome
Well,
family
you got to
entertainment,
jazz it
right?
up.
But even and here's the other thing to think about too. Nobody at the time really even thought about the halftime show being really broadcast and being part of the football game. They really set it up for people in the audience really to watch and not really be broadcast. But this just kind of gives you some idea. I think this video we're going to show gives you some idea
All
of
right,
where
we got
things started.
we got to show because and they did go for back then the gimmick.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Here we go.
I mean, you got this guy on a jetpack.
Really, you have jobs being used. I mean,
You gotta
so yeah.
absolutely
I mean,
love
look at
that.
this. Right. So you got the gimmicks and stuff. You got these guys playing around. So yeah.
Which,
That was and you saw the marching band, right?
yeah,
So
they're all and I suppose it makes sense, right? When the first time you're doing anything, you don't know what you don't know, I guess. Where,
right.
but what shocks me is as we go through this, what always shocked me was how in the hell long it took them before they finally caught on that this could be a thing.
Yeah, a long time. A
Yeah,
long time.
I mean,
You know,
I mean, if you look at, we don't go, you don't get to like great musical acts until the '90s.
right. Right. Well, there's some, and we'll show one coming up here that was kind of a big one where they started trying to incorporate musical acts. We could look at Super Bowl IV, which was 1970, and that had some really great jazz people. So you had like Doc Severinsen and Al Hurt and Lionel Hampton, and then you had the Southern University Marching Band, and you had this in New Orleans. So the kind of the music there was playing there for the '70s show kind of, it kind of made sense. So they were trying here. And
Yeah.
then the other thing before we get into that too, and you still see it through this, was that a lot of these acts that they were putting on were very much family oriented. They
Yes.
were, yeah. So you had like these producers from Walt Disney World and Disneyland at the time before Disney World. So these people that would create these, these programs that would play at Disneyland would actually come and put together programs for the halftime show. So
Well,
there was a lot of that kind of stuff going
yeah.
on
Well,
too.
here, let's take a look at this one, and then I actually kind of,
Yeah.
I just had a thought that popped into my head. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, this wasn't. I mean, they reenacted, like a
Something.
Revolutionary War, you know,
Right.
thing, and they're
Right.
shooting off cannons, and
Right, exactly. And this is the time when they have these really great jazz people too. That were playing this thing. So it's just See, here you got this whole New Orleans jazz thing
and
going on, which I think is cool. It's
and it
fun.
definitely. Yeah, let's kill that. And it definitely. So I just had a thought that we're looking at these jazz musicians, right? And they were greats, right? Al Hurt,
Yeah, Lionel
amazing,
Hampton.
yeah. But if you kind of think about it, the demographics, right? Because if you were going for someone who's maybe in their 50s this time, these were the popular acts of
Yeah,
their
yeah,
time.
you're right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And
You know,
and I don't think that there was the. I don't think that the it wasn't the spectacle that it is today, right? So I think that you had a lot of people that were really just football fans that were watching it, and not. So you might have an older demographic, a bunch of guys in their 40s and 50s, and again, that's kind of the music that kind of played into that, right?
yeah, it
So
was what they listened to when they were kids.
right. That's exactly right. So, and again, you had stuff that was very wholesome and kind of in a way very vapid. but
Really
you
vapid.
know, but I think that leads us to the next part of this, where we had the emergence in the 1980s of this performing troupe called Up with People,
Well, and
which was,
they played at the first one, didn't they? They had a little part in the first one.
yeah, in a little part. And actually, and this is the reason we're going to talk about Up with People, I think, in a little bit more detail here, is that there's been nobody, by far, nobody that's played more Super Bowls than this Up with People act. And let me tell you a little bit about what Up with People. So what Up with People does is they stage a song and dance performance. They promote themes as like multiculturalism, racial equality, and positive thinking.
Be nice to your
Which I
fellow
think
man.
is just, yeah. I mean, I think that that's great, but how does that really translate?
Well,
But back,
especially in a game that's like more about gladiators and combat.
so they actually performed in 5 Super Bowl halftime shows, if you can believe that, and they headlined 4 of them, and additionally, they even did one Super Bowl pregame show.
Oh.
So it is just unbelievable that they had these guys, and we're
Well,
going to
and
get into
Up with People's a funny thing, right? Because Up with People, people have a lot of reactions to them, right? I think they're kind of silly, whatever. I know someone who was in Up with People, later on,
yeah,
not in these Super Bowl years, but I
right,
mean, devoted, right?
yeah.
It's almost like they were soldiers in war and they'll die for each
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and they're really true to their cause, which I think is awesome. But does that, in a Super Bowl context, at least this is just kind of my humble view, is that maybe it doesn't really work, or
other.
maybe in retrospect, as we look at it, maybe at the time it really did. I mean, it must have to a certain degree.
Well, I
They
think
were they were brought back for, yeah, they're on there for 5 different times.
yeah, and
So,
I think that one of the reasons, and is especially on the production side, right? Because in my day world, I'm a production guy. Um,
right,
they're easy.
yeah,
They know theatrics, they know show. Right, so you don't have to show them anything, right? They can just go and do their thing. But hey, we
yeah,
do
you just show up. Yeah.
let's pop on this clip from the 19. It was Super Bowl 10. What was that? 76.
Yeah, 1976. This is the bicentennial year of America, and I
And
think it was something like the theme was like "Hey America, we've just begun" or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But yeah, take a look at
I
this.
give you Up with
So,
People.
all right, so there's some helpful people. Yeah, so some comments that we have from that. Um, so the worst one that in a retrospective look back in 2010, in a retrospective look at halftime shows, the San Francisco Chronicle ranked the 82 show, believe it or not, as being the worst halftime show in history. And let's play this because this
All
is
right,
this is pretty funny.
all
Go
right.
ahead and play this one.
People from 24 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Up with People!
Yeah, here we go. So it's this.
Yeah,
This is a Motown. This is a Motown thing. So I don't think you let it rip for it. Yeah. So they're dancing to these Motown songs. I don't think you can't really hear them that much, can you? So
yeah. I think you can get an idea of
I
where they're
think you get
going
the
with that.
gist of this, right? So this quote I thought was hilarious. This goes back again to the San Francisco Chronicle review of this. So they said this
Wait,
show,
best
the
quote
82,
ever. Best quote
yeah,
ever.
yeah. So this show, the 82 Super Bowl 14 show, uh, Up with People's salute to Motown in the 1960s was the worst of its 4 Super Bowl appearances. The performances featured the whitest people in the world performing music identified mostly with African American culture. So they said, imagine watching the cast of Bonanza performing in a Tyler Perry play, which I think is great.
They're not wrong.
And then in a live 365 article, Catherine Miloweski collectively ranked every Super Bowl halftime performance by Up With People, and basically said, if you're from an older generation, and we were talking about this before, and remember watching this group on your television set, you may appreciate Up With People's performances due to the nostalgia that they bring. Well, good for you. But those of us born around after the 80s, watching these shows just feels like another version of reality. What on earth is going on here? Why did the NFL let a cheesy nonprofit group of young people throw a high school choir-esque number in the middle of America's TV's biggest night? Why is watching it now so unbelievably funny?
It, well, it's actually kind of cringy.
It is. It's kind of so. I guess it has a certain charm, but at the same time, it's very cringy. And that one with the Motown salute, I think is just very very cringy watching that.
Well, and
So,
and if you look at the times though, they
yeah,
thought at that time they thought that was the best thing ever.
yeah,
And
yeah, they
and
did.
well, and if you remember back then, because I remember that Super Bowls in the '80s, right? And halftime, you pretty much left, right? The TV,
Yeah,
the volume went down. You went and hit the keg,
I definitely
or
wanted
made a
to
drink. So,
get.
you weren't watching the halftime show, so it really
No,
was just to entertain the people that were sitting in the audience.
yeah,
You,
yeah, exactly.
the Super
Mhm.
Bowl commercials weren't a thing yet.
No,
You know,
mm-mm.
and which again, I don't know why it took so long. I don't know why it took so long for the light bulb to go off with someone to say, "Holy shit, we have a worldwide audience." What record company wouldn't have should have been pushing their new artists to be on
Right.
here,
Yeah,
and nobody
exactly.
was,
No, no.
or at least
I
not that
mean,
I
and
know of.
not that I'm really aware of. So now we can take this all the way up to the late 80s,
And this
right?
is this one. If it's the one I think you're going to be talking about, this is actually one that I think was the worst Super Bowl
Yeah,
halftime show by far.
this was a halftime show with an Elvis Presley impersonator performing he was performing card tricks. So, so let's roll this, and then we'll come back to this because I think this is absolutely hilarious. And yeah, I think this has got to be one of the worst shows ever.
I mean the one thing I never it is so bad.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful. So there's a shot of the crowd, right? But yeah, here's go a little forward so we can see the actual card tricks this guy was doing. I don't even know if we can find anything.
All right, let's.
All right. Anyway, hang on here.
I mean, the audience looks like they're into it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
this is
there's
just.
the Elvis guy. Right. There's the Elvis guy.
The card you chose, only Mr. Presto knows. Prepare for my most mystifying feat. The card you chose is under your seat.
All right, that is enough.
Oh yeah, I can't.
Right,
I
so,
honestly couldn't.
yeah,
I couldn't do more of that if you paid me.
Presto. Right. So here's a funny thing about that. According to the NFL Films documentary, the guy that was portraying Elvis, who he was actually being called Presto, he got the job 3 days before the game after a previous actor quit the show to do a Lee Jeans commercial. That just shows,
in his defense, Lee jeans were really popular back then.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Nobody really even thought about this being like this, like the halftime show, right? Like we were talking about.
It wasn't that big.
So Yeah, I know. And that guy, the guy that was the Elvis Presto guy, never performed on stage again after that Super Bowl halftime show, which is crazy. You know, like he debuted and
That
then
was it.
exited. Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Well, hey, up until what's coming up, halftime was for burgers and bong hits.
That's exactly right. Yeah, nice frosty one from the keg. You know, that was
Exactly.
right. Or you know, some older dudes, older than us, that were just drinking, you know, scotch and on the rocks or something. I mean,
Well,
it
I,
wasn't like it is now, right?
well, and I wonder if maybe that halftime show was the catalyst. Because how much longer was it until they actually started? It was only like it was the next year, wasn't it?
I
That
think
or
it was the
maybe a
next
year or two
year.
that all of
Yeah,
a
maybe a
sudden
year or
somebody went,
two.
"Oh shit, we can't do this anymore."
Right. And then let's start having popular acts, right? So 1991 was really the beginning where you start to see that. And the first act that you saw was New Kids on the Block. And, you know, for those that don't remember, 1991 for this singing group was probably their biggest year. And they were extremely popular
They were
at the
huge.
time. Yeah, at
I,
the time. So it made sense,
I mean, and it's really
you know.
funny. I like all genres, right? As people, as we get more episodes of this, people are going to learn that you and I, our musical tastes aren't like normal people, right? We like
Right.
a lot of different genres. And I will say, New Kids on the Block weren't bad, right? Like
No,
you go back and if something comes on the radio, I'm not changing it, right? Because
no,
honestly, they weren't bad. This really was the height of their career. But
right.
again, production quality wasn't to what it was now, but it was a
Oh,
lot
no.
bigger. I mean, it was a lot better than the previous ones.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, roll this. So you can see already that the production quality is very good.
Gonna get to you, girl.
Yeah, again, wholesome family entertainment, though, right?
And now,
And
to honor our armed
And
forces children, Coca-Cola
so, yeah,
proudly
you can see
presents
very
the
kids
New
are in
Kids
this.
on the
The other thing that
Block.
if you watch this was also they had a Disney piece to this,
yeah,
which was like it's a small world. So again, you're kind of bringing the Disney in. You've got children now on the stage. You've got, I mean, it looks pretty cheesy now, but
but at
at
the
least
time,
that,
this really was state of the art at the time.
right.
This
Yeah,
is what
1991.
because I think when there was all controversies over on SNL and other things about artists lip syncing and things like that, and do they lip sync at the Super Bowl? Well, sure, sometimes they have to because
They
you
have to.
literally
Yeah.
can't move. You've only got 30 minutes. And you can't
Right.
get the equipment up onto the stage that you would need to actually, yes, you can, with a future one like, I know we'll talk about Prince later, but okay, he's going to play his guitar. Okay, now they have the equipment that's wireless
Right.
that he can wear a pack and he can go out there and he can do these things. But back
Right.
here, this was state of the art.
This was it. I mean, if anything, you had the microphones live, but you know, the music or anything like that, no.
Yeah.
And I think that's still kind of the case, and not all the time, but a lot of times the music is a background, and then you have the microphones working so you can sing and talk and that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was kind of really the beginning of it all.
well, and
Was the 1991 show?
here we go down one of our rabbit holes. I still don't fault musicians for lip syncing if they have to. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the one that really got me was the SNL one with it was Jessica Simpson's
Yeah, it
sister
was just I can't think of her name. Yeah, she got on live on
on
live
S
TV. They played the wrong song.
on SNL. There's no reason to do that. The equipment's there. You can sing.
No,
That's
right.
nerves getting in your way. But again,
That's right.
in this case, sometimes you gotta. But we are moving up
Yeah,
because now we're going
right.
to get to this is the next one, and I know you're going to dive into it, but the next one is literally, I think, what caused the Super Bowl halftime show to absolutely become in sometimes bigger than the game.
Right. 1993. So 2 years later, Michael Jackson. This is truly a turning point
Yeah,
in
here let's
Super
let's
Bowl
let's catch a little
halftime
piece of
shows.
it, and then we can come
Yeah.
in and talk about the
Yeah.
ramification of what happens to this.
Right.
Uh oh, the jetpack guy. There we go. See, you like how I did
Can't
that?
get enough of the jetpack guy. Yeah, look at this. This is great.
Now, the one thing you'll notice is there's not a lot of set back because they did it almost in the round.
Right.
So there wasn't like
right.
a backdrop or anything.
No, you just rolled this big thing out, and then. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely
I mean,
a massive improvement, and that really proved to be a real pivotal point, right? It was that real turning point. So, and that show actually drew an unprecedented television viewership, and that set the standard for future
so
performances. So this
so
is all
look,
the way
wait.
in
Let me ask you this. Let,
1993,
let me
right?
ask you
Yeah.
this: Who played in the game? You don't know
See, I don't, I don't,
because
I don't remember. Yeah,
it was Michael Jackson was the game that year.
yeah, and sometimes it was right where the games would kind of stink. Like it would be a blowout, right? One team, the AFC would blow out the NFC or vice versa, and it wouldn't be much of a game. So you're really sticking around for the halftime show.
Yeah.
So and you think 1983? That's
Wait,
or
93.
1993? Yeah, what was that like? That must have been like Bad, like Michael Jackson's Bad album. I think was probably right around that time. So he was riding really high.
Actually,
But
it would have been the album right after Bad. With
was
the
the album
black,
right after Bad?
yeah, but but Thriller, Bad, and I forget the one that was after that. Those were still on the hot Billboard. They were still on the charts.
Massive,
I mean, those
massive,
albums were
massive.
huge. In fact, it probably this is actually about the time when his controversies started to
Right
creep in.
around, yes, right around this or right after this. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably right after this. But think about this. So we went from 1966 to where we are now, which is 1993.
25 years.
Right. Yeah. Of just these, it wasn't anything until I think Michael really, kicked
Kicked
it
it
up a
off.
notch. Right. And then here's another good one, I think, too, from the 90s as we leave the 90s. This is 1999. So this is a great one. I recommend people go back and check this one out too. So this is Stevie Wonder, Gloria Estefan, and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. So it's kind of cool to see them kind of bring in a band like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, which was kind of popular at the time, but I think was kind of a little out of the mainstream,
Well,
right?
yeah,
And
actually, they were out of the main, but this actually brought that style of music into the mainstream. Right now, all of a sudden,
right,
it was right around in here. It was probably the year before I had gone and seen Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and they were playing at a tiny little club. Right after this, they're not playing tiny clubs anymore.
no,
I
no,
think
this will make or break you. Yeah,
and I think that they just ended their run. They just disbanded as a group. They've been around for a long time. But hang on, let's play this clip.
Halftime
Yeah.
show, starring Stevie Wonder, Gloria Estefan,
And I
yeah.
think-
So Gloria, this is in Miami too. So Gloria Estefan is right in your backyard. Yeah, look at Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. Yeah, I mean, this is great.
Yeah,
I recommend people go check this
I'll
out.
pop it forward.
Yeah, there's Stevie Wonder. Flipping awesome. You go a little forward more and show Gloria Estefan.
Wait, where's Gloria? There she is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is great. This is absolutely great. Look at the production quality. It's going up. Big time. Even just look at Michael Jackson's one versus this one.
Yeah,
You know,
now we can. Now
it-
you see the production
Right.
quality is like it literally took and now it's going up.
Right, and that's 6 years later from Michael Jackson. So you can really start to see it really begin to notch up. So,
Although now they're going to run into a little bit of problem.
yeah, we can start talking about some of the memorable and controversial moments here. There's been a few. So, I remember this very clearly, probably because I had a child at the time, and I wasn't exactly hitting the bar hard during the halftime show.
Halftime. Yeah, because you had a 1-year-old at this point, or 2-year-old, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, 2-year-old. So this was Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake, which again, I think a great lineup. It was a great halftime performance. Go check it out. This is 2004, but there was a wardrobe malfunction.
Now, so
right.
I watched this for the first time as I was setting all these videos up to play. So I watched it for the first time, and I am sorry, this was not a malfunction.
No,
no.
This was not a malfunction. Absolutely not.
No. So here we go.
Right. Yeah, look at the production value.
Oh, it went way up.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So, yeah. Again, the production value that was the end of it, right?
Yeah.
So what he did, if anybody missed it here, is Justin Timberlake reached over across the chest of Janet Jackson,
and they had a pull thing
aside. Yeah, had like a cover over her breast, and pulled it off.
Yep.
Revealing her breast, and she acted very shocked when this happened. Right, there was a massive controversy from an FCC, or Federal Communications Committee, that monitors obscenity and stuff on broadcasting. There was a major backlash over this, and people calling up the FCC and demanding, something happen.
Oh, I know.
And I remember this really being really more heavily focused on Janet Jackson, right?
Which why? She
right.
Didn't.
That's exactly it. She's standing there.
Let's say if this is truly a malfunction. I don't think it was,
right.
But let's say that it was. How in the hell does it have anything? I mean, obviously it's her body, but I mean, she didn't cause it. She didn't.
No, she didn't. She didn't.
She's told
she didn't
what
do
to
anything.
wear, right? Because you're the artist, you're the talent. That's basically they come in and here's what you're going to wear. Okay, great. And you're absolutely right. I think the backlash, because he suffered no backlash.
No,
right?
And he's the one that physically removed, the garment.
Right, and
right?
she did absolutely nothing. She didn't do anything.
She was standing there. No, she was just standing there.
But it was. Mm-hmm. But up until that, it was a great halftime show.
It was a great show. And again, I would say to people, go out and check out these halftime shows, because these ones were spectacular. They really were.
And then the next one I know we're going to talk about is actually one that was after tragedy, right? So
yeah, and this I think, putting this in context, I think is really important. So for those that may not have watched this, or maybe even weren't alive at the time, this was pretty much right after 9/11.
Yep.
The tragedy.
5 months? 5 months after 9/11.
Right. Yeah, like probably 5 months after this. Okay. And it was, Keith, you were around and went through this like I did. There was a lot of pain on a national level here for the country on what happened with these horrible terrorist attacks. And what I think you two did, who's the next act we're going to talk about, who was the performance for this year, did, I think, was very, very touching, and really brought, at least to me, I can't obviously speak to everyone else, but to me, it kind of gave a little bit of hope, and it made me feel better, and I think was a real tribute to those that were lost on that terrible day. This is a very emotional one, and I think one of the best ones that was ever done. Yeah,
Gotta love
this
those
was
graphics
great.
back then.
Yeah, here, scroll it ahead. Yeah, go ahead even more. Yeah, and then yeah, see the names in the back. Those are the people that were
That
lost. Look
unreal.
at that.
Look, I'm getting goosebumps now, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, just absolutely amazing show.
You know,
And
and
then
that's
right at the very end of that, too, we talk about wardrobe. Um, Bono opens his jacket up to reveal the American flag.
oh
That
yeah.
was right here, and it was basically over his heart.
Oh, they cut it off
So
over
that
this, yeah.
yeah, and that
But I do
was
remember that,
that
which was
it
cool.
was very very touching. And look, you see a heart there. Yeah, it
But
was that was an emotional show.
that that
Really really good.
that was when the world still loved America.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's exactly right. And then we also saw right around that time, a little bit later, we saw a switch in 2007 to high definition video.
That
So technically, things started looking really
really
good,
good.
really good.
Well, and they
And
also,
then
and that's, but also there were behind the scenes production stuff that was happening, right? That made, with the switch to HD, equipment was getting smaller, lighter. The ability to
right,
transmit was getting even better. So you started to
right.
get these over the effing top shows,
hmm
right? So I'm
You
sorry.
could
Go ahead.
do things.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you could really start to do a lot of other things, and I think that you'll see this in the next one we're going to look at. So this is 10 years after the switch to high definition television. This is 2017, and this is Lady Gaga,
Yep.
and the high energy acrobatic performances she was able to do and they were able to capture because
Because
of the equipment got so much smaller and more
cameras
versatile.
are now small, right?
Right,
Yet they have an amazing image capture. But let's watch her when she.
right. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty crazy.
that is totally crazy. And again, look at the production quality here. Oh, it's just really, really come up. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So
Well,
that's another show that I think really just took it up another
well,
notch.
and now the stage sets, right? Like where she comes down and she's on top of that tower.
Right.
From a production standpoint, in '02, '92, '82, you couldn't have done that. The pieces would have been
No.
too heavy, right? But now they
Right.
have all these real, like I have actually sitting in my car right now. I have a 4-foot high camera riser that the whole thing weighs probably 22 pounds,
Right.
right?
Right. So these
Whereas,
sets are smaller, or they're not smaller, but they're lighter, and they're modules, so you can kind of
yep.
get them out there, connect them together, and get everybody in place really quickly because that's important, right? You don't have much time to set these shows up,
No,
right?
you got minutes.
All that's right. You've got minutes. All this stuff's got to get rolled onto onto the field, right? And
So
then set up. So
so for work, in my day job, the other day we actually had to close two walls in a ballroom, and we gave
mm,
ourselves 45 minutes to do it. That's
wow,
right. These guys are doing all of this stage stuff in literally 3, 4, 5 minutes.
yeah,
You know they,
yeah,
the half ends. They go to commercial, and yes, it is a longer than normal commercial break. And then
right.
they'll talk about the game for a few minutes.
They'll talk about the game for a little bit,
But
right?
but then they're coming right back, and whatever it is set to go.
And it has to be. Yeah,
Well, and
it
that's
has to be. It has to be. And then that goes back to the whole thing about not performing live, like the instruments not being live. Well, you don't have time
no.
to, to test all the different equipment to make
Well,
sure that it works. Again, most of the time microphones are live. But
yeah,
the,
you're
the
right.
backing,
Yeah, and then they'll play what they call click track behind them, right?
Mhm.
Which
Right.
is the instrumental of it. Um, y yeah, I mean, there's too many things that can go wrong in a live performance, right? A
No,
guitar string breaks. Okay, well, they have other guitars, then somebody has to run them out of guitar and all that. You see it happen in concerts all the time.
all
But
the time.
you can't do it in a situation like this where you literally have a billion people around the globe watching a game.
Right, right. You can't. So you just mime to it. The drummer's up there,
Yeah.
right? Hey, I mean, it's what you got to do. It's
Oh wait,
still an
who's
amazing
U2's drummer?
spectacle.
It's not
Larry,
Larry Mullen. Larry
Larry
Mullen Jr.
Mullen, yeah,
Do you know
Larry
he can't
Mullen
count?
Jr. Yeah,
He has a form of dyslexia that he can't add and he can't go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he had
right,
to teach him. I'm totally off on a tangent. He had to teach himself other ways to keep the beat. So
right. Yeah,
like
think about that. And,
Alabama,
and
Alaska,
drumming is
right?
math. Drumming is
Is
all
math.
math. Right.
Yeah,
So if you can't even count, right?
it's
Drumming is math.
well. Hey,
So that, yeah,
he's made it work.
it shows. I think he's a hell of a great drummer, and
Uh,
it's just funny that, it's funny not funny that you have a drummer that can't count.
the can't count.
So,
All right. Anyway,
right.
back on track.
So another one that I think is a really good one
Yeah.
is
Actually, I'm gonna pull up the picture right now because this is actually one of my favorite performers. So I'll actually throw up. Now go ahead. Now do your thing while
well, who are we talking about here? So I can make sure I'm talking about the right.
we're talking
thing.
about Rihanna.
Oh, Rihanna, yeah, her 2023. So now we're up to 2023.
Yeah, because we are
Um,
saving the best for last.
Right. That revealed her pregnancy on camera. So it combined, I would say personal milestones and professional prowess.
Yeah,
And also, I think to a certain degree, a certain amount of female power, that she was really exhibiting,
because this would
And
have never flown in 1976.
no, no, no,
No.
no, 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 no.
But here,
no,
let's
no.
let's watch a quick clip of it, and
Yeah,
then we can.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you've ever had the
Yeah.
chance to see Rihanna in concert, go.
Right, absolutely. And look at this, floating,
Yeah.
floating things and all sorts of stuff.
Again,
I
this
mean,
is
very, very clean set,
this is
very
how
cool.
far we've come in staging and the ability
Right.
to do this stuff fast.
Right,
I mean,
right. I mean, all
absolutely.
that stuff was just hanging over everyone's head during the game. Pretty amazing to actually see that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, super, super, super cool.
Right. So, one of the ones that I think is probably the best. I don't know, Keith. I'm going to ask you at the end which performance was your favorite.
Oh, this one. This was by
Yeah,
far
this
the
is
best.
mine too. This is mine too, hands down. We're going to go back a little bit. Well, actually, quite a bit to
Was it?
2007. Yeah,
Was it
2007.
2007? Wow.
Yeah, this is Prince's performance, and this was amazing. So he did like Purple Rain It was raining.
It was raining.
During the show, right? So he's up there soaked, and this performance, I think by far, everybody should go check this out.
Hands down. This was
It
the
great.
absolute best. Hang on, let's do a quick little.
Right, 2007, and his guitar's plugged in, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, look at this. So he's one of the few that actually played his guitar live. Yeah.
I mean,
And look at all the people on the field too.
Oh.
They had to bring all those people on. So-
absolutely. This performance was absolutely staggering, and I know we can only play a couple of little parts of it.
Right.
But
Go check
go
it
check
out.
that one out. It is
Right.
it is literally amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then wait, who do we have this year? It is Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar, which
Yeah.
I think
It's gonna be a good show.
It's going to be a good show. And
Yeah.
and I think for those that may not like or say that they don't like rap. I think that Kendrick Lamar is an artist, as a, let's call him a rap artist, and kind of put him into that box, I guess. But as an artist, he is exceedingly good.
But
So I think this is going to be,
one of the things we
yeah,
saw was kind of a shift. Early in the OOs, yeah, you had Lady Gaga, but there were a lot of classic rock acts. Like you had the
yeah, there
Who,
was.
you had Aerosmith, you had
Yeah, the
ZZ Top.
Stones,
ZZ
hmm
Top played the Stones. Yeah, you had Lady
Paul
Gaga in
McCartney.
there.
Hmm
You know, but they changed the company that they partner with. It's actually it's Jay Z's production companies that is now sourcing the acts and bringing them in, and so now you've noticed this turn to more current artists. You
Right,
know,
right.
people the kids are gonna like. Well, actually, no, music people like you and I love it too. I mean, because it is
Yeah,
great. But that's why you've seen these shifts in how it is. Yeah, I think
yeah, I agree.
they could probably bring back a rock act. We've gone a few years without a true rock act. But don't go back to the old favorites, right?
No.
Bring out a new. Give me
Well, who's a new big rock act? See, that's the problem,
yeah, you're
right?
right. Well, you
See,
can.
and that's the thing is that rock is not like it was.
It doesn't hold
It
the
doesn't the audience that we have today, right?
well.
Is
Pop and
not a
rap
rock
are
audience.
pop and rap
Mhm.
are the big
Yeah, that's
acts.
right. That's
You know,
right. And yeah, and I think that even at the time, I think there was some, a bit of pushback that a lot of these acts that were playing, even though they were massive, right? The Rolling Stones and the Who and Tom
oh,
Petty
huge.
and Bruce Springsteen and all these, I think that people were starting to see them as a bit passe. And I think that what you started to see was a cultural shift as well,
Yeah,
right? You had more younger people that were watching. You had more of a female audience that was now watching. You had more of a diverse cultural background. It wasn't just like the middle-aged white guys
yeah. It wasn't
watching
50,
football.
60 year old white guys,
Right.
drinking Heinekens. Right
That's right.
now you actually had um, a real slice of the population that are actually watching the game. And you know what? In some places they're drinking wine, and in other places they're drinking margaritas, and another right. You're getting that true. It's Americana.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but even if you think about it on a world stage, right? Now
Yeah,
think of the people in Europe and Africa and other
fair
places
point.
in Asia they're turning in,
Well,
right?
that's
So
they're
I'm
talking
sorry,
about having
please.
the Super Bowl go international, right? Where we
Why
were reading,
not?
we were checking out an article the other day where there are a lot of cities that are under consideration, you know, for a Super Bowl. Mexico City is one. There's a few
Hmm
different cities in Europe, the UK. Obviously, we play a number of
Yeah,
NFL games there, so
sure.
they have to tap into that audience. If you want them to watch the sport, you have to have the things that they recognize and enjoy.
That's right. And if you really think about it now, it's become a cultural platform and it's become a platform for artistic expression and cultural commentary. If you look at, we're not going to show it here, but Beyonce's show in 2013, that was like a powerful message of Black empowerment. And the show, if you think about it now from the NFL's perspective, it's a way for them to really be able to connect with current culture.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Well, and what's funny is, early on we were saying that when the halftime show came on, it was time for burgers and beers. Now when the
mhm,
halftime show comes on, you literally run to get a beer and get back to the couch
and
because
get
you're actually
back.
going to tune in.
Right.
And
That's right. Hmm
yeah, sometimes you may be laughing at whoever it is, because some of the choices for the Super Bowl have been, huh?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. They
yeah,
have, but they've been less lately.
yes, yes, yes. Even Katy Perry with the Sharks
Yeah.
was actually good. And it's funny because
Yeah.
I went the year after the Super Bowl and saw her in concert, and she had the Sharks. Just
Yeah.
saying,
Why not?
those are a thing.
And it's fun. Yeah. And I think it's great. to really begin to have a more diverse audience,
Yeah.
right? And have it be more that true social cultural platform that it is.
All right.
One thing to keep in mind too about this is none of these people are getting paid,
No. Oh,
right?
that's a good
No,
point.
nobody
That is a
gets
good
paid,
point. They do not get paid.
right? Nobody gets paid, but you can imagine the exposure that you get from being on these, being on these types of things.
Oh, Big Bad
That
Voodoo
might have
Daddy,
been
right there.
well, right, and that might have been maybe what kept people out of it. Kind of think about it now. Back in the day, it's like I'm not going to go play that. I'm not getting paid, and
Well,
so
because back then when something was aired, that was the only time people saw it, unless they decided to replay it on the news or something along those lines. Now
mhm,
everything ends up distributed across hundreds of different channels. Whether it's
right,
YouTube, broadcast, memes, TikTok, right? It's everywhere. So now
right.
if somebody says, "Hey, do you want to do this for free?" You go, "Oh yeah."
Oh yeah, I do. That's right. Oh
All right.
yeah, absolutely, I do.
This is a perfect place
Mhm.
to leave us. How'd our
All
first
right,
episode go? We have a good time with that one?
I had fun.
I had fun. All right. Until next week.